We rock. What's up, Doc? Yo, you know what the day is. It is Thirsty Thursdays. So, if you don't have no kids or whatever, go out there and get yourself a drink or something. Do something good for yourself today. Because guess what? I've heard somebody say before, it's Friday Eve. So go ahead and enjoy yourself. You only got one more work day, unless like me, where you had to work every other weekend, and then you used to hate it because you'd be like, dang, I got to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But either way, you make sure you still enjoy life and get yourself a little sip of something, even if it's just a Fiji water. So the good Dr. Umar. Funny thing is that we're both from Philly, so it's my Philly brethren. So I'm going to give him some grace today. Give him a little bit of grace. Not just because he's from Philly, but because he is still an accomplished man. And I think that people like that still deserve, and I've said this before, they still deserve a sense of grace because we all have done things that we may be less than proud of. All right. So first time I heard about Dr. Umar was from a buddy of mine, my buddy Rob. Shout out to Rob. He's a police officer out in Chicago. Great guy. Because I went to Norfolk State, he went to Hampton. So, great guy. I was introduced to him by my buddy Ron up here, who also went to Hampton. Talked about this before, about black businesses, people taking accountability for their work, people taking accountability for what they've done. And what we're going to do, we always try to show a little bit of context. And what I want to do is just show a little bit about what's going on because, some of you out there may not be familiar with who Dr. Umar is. So I'm just going to play a little clip for you real quick. And this is just him explaining the situation. Basically that his school, I think it's maybe 2 different buildings, maybe 3, that he bought down in Wilmington, Delaware, which is about 50 minutes outside of Philadelphia. They're set to foreclose on the building. I think it's August 25th. But let's hear this part of what he has to say first.
I'm at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. The accounts are still frozen. We're looking into it. The accounts are still frozen, brothers and sisters. We're supposed to hear back Friday. We're supposed to hear back Friday. That sounds like Monday to me. The bank is giving us the runaround. We ain't got our check back. So we're about to operate attorneys. Attorneys is about to get involved because we were told that when your account gets canceled, you're supposed to get your refund check for the amount that was in the account. We have not received that yet. So there's some funny business going on right now, brothers and sisters. There's some funny business going on right now, brothers and sisters, but we're going to take care of all that. Stay patient. Stay positive. Stay patient, stay positive. They messing with our bills. They messing with our automatic payments. They messing up a lot of stuff with this frozen account. They froze me and they froze the school. They froze me and they froze the school. But that's all right.
All right, that's enough of that. So as you can see, and he goes on, you can go check his site out. It's called The Prince of Pan Africa. That's his YouTube page. And he talks a lot about it. That's where I got that from. So Rob told me, my buddy in Chicago told me, and this was definitely before the pandemic, he was telling me about Dr. Umar because I wasn't really familiar with him because although I was on YouTube a lot, I wasn't as like heavy as I've been, of course, since the pandemic. So I had vaguely heard about him, but I never really heard about him. So I started listening to him. And believe me, he makes a lot of sense. He talks a lot of good points. He's a very polarizing kind of guy because some of the stuff that he talks about, a lot of people don't agree with, particularly interracial dating and things of that sort. But let's get back to him and the art of his business. So now, here's the issue. And this is why, and this really, to be honest with you, outside of my mom, I don't ask anybody for money. And that's if I need it. You know what I mean? I don't ask anybody for money. And the real reason why I never ask anybody, and what I mean by asking for a loan or something like that outside of a bank, is because I don't want to have to pay anybody back. And then also, too, when you borrow money from people, even though I will pay it back, right? And also, too, when you borrow money from people, and I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, as far as a man, I feel this sense of obligation now to this person. Now, of course, a lot of times you would only ask a person to borrow money if they were like, somebody that you were pretty close to, that you felt comfortable with. But especially as I've gotten older, it made me start feeling like, and this is just me personally, made me feel like less of a man to try to ask a friend or somebody or anybody for that matter to borrow money. And it does. It kind of makes me feel like a notch like, hey, you a grown man? You know what I mean? Where your bread at, dog? Where you such and such at? Now, like I was saying to you, and I've said this before in the video, sometimes like me, when I was in a pretty bad accident, you get to that point where you do start to run out of money and you may need help and may need assistance. And once again, shout out my mom, because she's practically the only one financially who stepped up and said, hey, my dad also stepped up and said, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? You're my kid. I got your back. I'm going to help you through this tumultuous time. And none of us ever know when we really are going to need that. That's why I speak on here a lot saying, hey, listen, you know what? With your friends and stuff like that, don't sometimes just don't talk about it. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just do it. Just say, hey, listen, yo, I got your back, dog. Just do it. But back to Dr. Umar. So you've solicited money from people for years. You've gotten this money from people for years. And allegedly, from internet swervings, they're saying that he's collected over $1.4 million over the years. I know that he goes on a lot of speaking engagements because I watch a lot of them. And I know that he charges a pretty hefty fee. Who knows from person to person. But as far as with him and his expertise and everything and his ability to draw a lot of numbers, because if you look up Dr. Umar Johnson, you'll see he has a lot of views even on other people's channels. It's funny, he actually has more views on other people's channels than his own channels. So, because that's how polarizing he is. And he's a great orator, so he can speak his butt off. So the thing is that you start to wonder, and you got to start asking, where did the money go, man? Where is that money at? And it's not just because it's money that you may have put up yourself from your own speaking engagements, but when you start asking people for money off the Cash App, now you'll have other YouTubers, and of course you got to get to a certain level before you can even start to ask people for Cash Apps or Zells or any of that kind of stuff, I believe. But at least when they do it, they're transparent. Look, you know what? Give me a couple dollars to help the channel out. Go to my Patreon, go to my PayPal, whatever. But at least that's transparency. And the average person understands, look, I bang with this person in their channel. I like them in their channel. I like the content that they're delivering. So you know what? I don't have any problems donating the $5, $10. Some people even do $20 and all that other kind of stuff. But when you promise somebody a school, when you are a school psychologist and people are expecting this from you, because I've talked about this before also too. In the black community, people are always looking for leaders. People are always looking for that one person, that next Marcus Garvey, that next Frederick Douglass that he actually named the school after, that next Martin Luther King, that next Malcolm X or Louis Farrakhan. So, especially since the civil rights movement or during the civil rights movement, black people have been leader-centric, dependent typically on one or two people at the time, and then it transferred to Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. People who at the time can look and say, hey, look, this is our guy. Yeah, that's right. What he's talking about, it stands for all of us, even though that's never true. But that's the feeling and the sentiment that people will get behind it, because readily you could go and ask anyone at whatever point in time, and you would say, hey, who's the most powerful black figure on earth? And it wouldn't be based off of money. Say, oh, Jesse Jackson. He has the Rainbow Coalition at the time. And in this time, especially the internet time, it would be safe for me to say that Dr. Umar is the black leader on at least the internet, on YouTube. Okay, because he talks a lot of stuff. He talks a lot of good stuff. Like I said, whether you believe in it or not, he talks a lot of stuff. So, and he has a very, very deep knowledge base. So, a lot of stuff that he talks about, like I always even tell you, you can go fact check it. You can go. So a lot of his stuff is very accurate. So he's pretty knowledgeable, and he's traveled a lot around the world. And I think that that's important. It's hard for you to give worldly dynamics on things or talks, and you haven't even traveled outside of your own country or your own neighborhood or your own city or state. So what I would encourage is that if this is coming to an end as far as they're going to take his school, and even if he does get the school back, I would encourage him, because I'm a little older than he is, to start to do things the right way. Start to have things set up so it doesn't feel like it's scammy whammy to people. Okay? People need to, especially when, and I don't care if it is just a $5 donation. When people are giving their money to something, people need to know that it's going to where it's going. All right. Even me, it's been times, I didn't give much, but, maybe like for Katrina or something, I donated $10, $20 to the Red Cross or whatever. Now, from what they say, most of the money that people donate to the Red Cross and all these other organizations goes to advertising, staff, whatever, buying supply, whatever. So only a portion of it gets to the actual people. But we all know that still organizations cost a lot of money to run. And Doc, what you got to do is that you got to show people some progress. It doesn't matter even if you only opened up a portion of the school. Okay, then that's all you do is open up a portion of a school. Even if, like you said, the gym is fixed or the gym is ready to go, you have young kids from the community come by and you sit and do the same thing you do online. You do lectures to these kids. You sit the kids in the gymnasium, you talk to them, ask them certain questions, then boom, you let them go run ball, then boom, you have some snacks and stuff for them, showing that you're doing stuff with the community. So in the meantime, while the school is not being open, people at least still feel a sense of, and I talked about it the other day, hope. Because people in impoverished neighborhoods have to feel hope. They can't feel like they're continuously being duped. The reason a lot of times why people in a lot of impoverished or black communities or lower served communities, I'll call them, they don't like police officers, because every time the police come around, it's always because there is an issue. There's always a negative issue. Not necessarily that the cops are causing the negative issue, but the two homies were down fighting and rumbling, and then it turned into a free fall. So now the cops had to come. So now it turns into more of a volatile possible situation. All right, because I remember at one time on the cops' cars, it would say in Philly, it would say to protect and serve. The serve part, I guess the serve is come help you out when there's something a problem. And believe me, I like the police, so it's not like I'm bashing them. But what I'm saying is that outside of doing patrols, there is no police. There's no police community deeper interaction that builds a trust. Think about it. Anybody that you know, anybody that you hang with, anybody that you deal with, even family members, there is a level of trust that has to be built over a period of time. So when the only time that you see the police is when there's an issue, you start to think to yourself, oh boy, here they come again. It must be a problem. Who don't did what now? Why you got to have the police around here in the community? What don't went wrong now? And I get that that's their job, but back to Dr. Umar. Doc, you have to start coming up. If you do save the school, and even if you don't save the school, you got enough influence. You got to start having things set up, and you need other people that are working with you. Get yourself an assistant, get a couple other people that kind of deal with all of that other kind of stuff, so it does not seem like a scam. So that it seems like it's an official situation that you have going on. Because a lot of people, including me, have spent a lot of time over the last 5-6 years listening to what you have to say. All right. And applauding a lot of the ways of what you say and how you deal with things. Seemingly. And the fact that is dope, that you wanted to have a school of your own, just for young black kids. But whether that happens now or not, and I'll just say this because I'll just think positive that you're going to keep the building. Use the building to start to help the community. Wilmington is another, in a lot of places, unserved, lower served community. Help the community, Doc. So that's all I got to say. You tell me what you think. You think Doc is on some scammy whammy, or do you think he's straight legit? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And until then, live life. Don't let life live you.